حي على الفلاح.
MashaAllah, this place is always so full of barakah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to fill it with barakah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this a gathering that is surrounded by His malaika, upon which His tranquility descends. May Allah make us amongst those that are pleasing to Him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless Miftah. Everyone say Ameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of the students at Miftah, the staff, the volunteers, the scholars, all of the people that make dua for it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite our hearts and make us pleasing to Him. Allahumma Ameen. So the topic that I chose for tonight, and I'm going to get right into it inshaAllah ta'ala because I don't have that much time to talk about a pretty important topic. And that is integrity. Integrity. But the integrity of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to be very specific. The integrity of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That quality that he had. And I want you to think about the times that we live in today and how the Prophet ﷺ talked about a time where trust is lost, where you can't trust people. You can't trust leadership. You can't trust neighbors. You can't trust family at times. You can't trust all of these people that you should be able to trust. And of course, he was speaking to a generation, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he had raised, where you had companions sitting amongst each other that had literally guarded each other's backs in war and had been through the Khandaq, been through the trench. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam talking about a time that trust becomes so rare once again. And I was thinking about the famous hadith of Hudayfa radiyallahu ta'ala anhu ibn al-Yaman, and he was talking about these signs of the Day of Judgment. He said that there would come a time where trust is lost to an extent that you would hear about a trustworthy person somewhere, and you would say, "Inna fi bani fulan rajulan amina," that there's in that area a trustworthy person, someone that you could deal with. I found someone that's trustworthy, that I could deal with. And it would be as if that's strange to find someone that is trustworthy, right? To do business with or whatever it may be. Trust. And then I go back to the life of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there are many qualities of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to talk about. And I pray that all of you have developed a deeper connection to him through this conference. And that is something that you're developing bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, because that journey of developing a connection with the Prophet ﷺ is a lifelong journey, because you're literally trying to be more like him every day that you exist on this earth. And he was described with many things, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Kana wasiman, jamilan, halim. He was always smiling. He was a person who was exceedingly beautiful. He was a person who was exceedingly kind. Kareem, generous, forbearing. All these qualities existed of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam prior to Islam, right? Before Islam, he has all these nicknames. But the two nicknames of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam that stand out are, anybody say them? As-Sadiq al-Amin. As-Sadiq al-Amin. He is truthful. He is trustworthy. And you know what that tells you? The fact that those are the two qualities that stood out, truthful and trustworthy. Two things. Number one, that those qualities are so rare to find in a society that when someone exhibits them in such an obvious way, that is what gains the admiration of the people. Especially in a time, of course, where you had corruption, once again. You had class hierarchy. You had tribalism. You had all of these different forms of oppression and transgression. And you had people that would cheat one another, especially the outsiders that came into Mecca. And you had amongst them a man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sadiq, ameen, truthful, trustworthy. When he speaks truth. And when you entrust him with something, you know that you can entrust him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So number one is that when people assign those qualities to you, that's because they're rare in society. That's why those become the most prominent qualities. The second thing is that you manifest them in a way that is more beautiful than even those who also possess those qualities. There were other people that were people of sidq and amana, people of truthfulness and people of trustworthiness. But there was only one, as-Sadiq al-Amin, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You could trust him. You knew he would speak the truth, and you knew that you could trust him. And those were the two qualities that made all of the other qualities beautiful, as the ulama mentioned, because if you're not a trustworthy person, then all of the other good qualities and characteristics can actually become vices rather than virtues. Because your kindness is actually conniving, right? All the good qualities that you exhibit are to take advantage of people, to exploit opportunities. Because amana ties it all together, a trustworthy person. And if you live long enough and you've been burned long enough and by enough people, you just say, man, I just want someone I could trust. You start to value friends, you start to value people on the basis of integrity. It stops being highly ideological. It stops being highly tribal. It really becomes, I love that person because I can trust that person. I know that when I'm talking to that person, I know that when I'm dealing with that person, that I'm dealing with someone who's going to hold precious what I share. They're not going to betray what I share with them. I know that I can trust that person with something significant. I can be vulnerable with that person without them exploiting those vulnerabilities. These are qualities that you look for in people as you get older, when you realize amana is so rare in every generation. And the more that corruption rises, the less that you find the quality of amana, trustworthiness, being present. Now let's start with the Prophet ﷺ in this moment, as-sadiq al-amin sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And he invokes that quality when he stands on a safa. He doesn't invoke his generosity. He doesn't say to the people, have I not been generous with you? He doesn't say to the people, have I ever frowned at you? He doesn't say to the people, have I ever brought you harm? The Prophet ﷺ invokes his trustworthiness. You trust me if I tell you there's an army coming, right? You know I've got your back in this life, therefore know that I also have your back in the afterlife. That's why, even though he was, as Imam Shanqiti rahimahullah says, very beautiful, Muhammad Amin, says that the Prophet ﷺ, Bashir wa Nadir, right? He was a giver of glad tidings and then he was a warner. He didn't, from the usloob of da'wah, from the manners of da'wah, you start with the glad tidings before the admonishing and the warning. But when the Prophet ﷺ stood up on Safa, when you're talking to people who already know who you are, when you're talking to people who don't need you to soften the blow, they trust you, right? He immediately goes to the fact of urgency, like, look, I'm trying to protect you. I'm talking to you this way because I really want to protect you. You know me. If you walk past a gathering and you have, and I don't want to generalize and just say this is like evangelical.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. If you enjoyed this video, please do share it with friends and family. If you want to see more videos from this series, click on the box at the top. If you want to see other videos, click on the box at the bottom. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks.